Here's your final video. We're in question 14. In this final video, we're still working on absolute value inequalities. And we're going to go up to level 2 here, right? Let's make it a little bit more complicated. Here's your first example. Okay. Now, the key is you have to recognize that this right here, this expression, this is a number. Whatever y is, I'm going to subtract 2 from it, but what you can see right now between my fingers, that's a number. Like that's the number 3 or the number 7 or something, right? It's some number. So the question is, what do I know about this number? And then from there, when I know about this number, y minus 2, then I can figure out more about y. So here's what I know about y minus 2. It could be, potentially, greater than or equal to 1, right? Because if I take, let's say, 10, and I plug this in, 10 minus 2 is 8. I take the absolute value, still 8. And that's going to be greater than or equal to 1, so that works. But the other option is that y minus 2 is less than or equal to negative 1. Now, why is that a possibility? Well, because when I take the absolute value, remember that it makes it positive. So let's say this number is, right, I want it to be greater than 1. But if this number ended up being, say, negative 5, then when I take the absolute value, it would be positive 5, which would be greater than 1. But if I want it to be negative 5, that's less than or equal to negative 1. So now, I'm going to solve these two inequalities. Okay, and just being mindful of any rules, right? If I divide by a negative or whatever that would be, flip the sign around. But in this case, I'm pretty basic. I just solve, right? I don't have to flip the sign. These are just one-step inequalities. Now, the key is I got to graph it. Okay, so I have a 1 and a 3 here, so I'm going to say, okay, let's go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so let's start with this one. This is y is greater than or equal to 3. So that's closed circle, and greater than is shade to the right. And here, this is y is less than or equal to 1. So here's 1, equal to, closed circle, less than, shade left. Okay, so it looks like this. So basically, y can be any number as long as it's not in between 1 and 3. Okay, so like y can't be 2. Why? Because look, if I plugged in 2 for y, 2 minus 2 would be 0, and that's not greater than or equal to 1. Okay, what if I plugged in like 1.5? 1.5 minus 2, that would be negative 0.5. Then I would take the absolute value, get positive 0.5. That's still not greater than or equal to 1. But look, here's my solid circle. I could plug in 1 here. Look, 1 minus 2 is negative 1. Take the absolute value, that's positive 1, which is greater than or equal to 1. Okay, so you can kind of check your graph by plugging in numbers like plug in 4, make sure it works. Plug in 0, make sure it works. Plug in 2, make sure it doesn't work, right? Use your graph to check your answer. Here is your last example, and as complicated as it gets. And let's do, this is just less than. Okay, so if I want this number to be less than 4, one option is, yeah, this number is just a number, right? This number, when I'm saying this number, I mean this whole number, whatever this becomes, could be less than 4, right? Now, think about it. It could be less than 4, right? So like those are numbers like 3, 2, 1. Now, but if I'm taking the absolute value, it could also be something like negative 3, negative 2, negative 1. Well, those numbers that I just named, those negative numbers, those are actually greater than negative 4. Those are greater than negative 4. Okay, so now I have my two inequalities. I'm just going to go ahead and kind of go through my process here to solve. So I got t is less than 5. Or my other possibility is t is greater than 1. So let's graph those. Okay, I have a 1 and a 5, so just make sure that on your graph you make sure you include those numbers. Okay, t is less than 5. So that's open circle. And I'm going to start shading to the left. Okay, but I got a feeling I'm going to have to stop, right? Because look, my other number is 1. It's greater than 1, so I'm open circle at 1. Shade to the right, greater than 1. So we can see that t is going to be something between, not including, but between 1 and 5. And so remember, here's how we check. We just plug in numbers. So I'm going to plug in 6. Now 6 shouldn't work, right? Because it's not shaded on my graph. So let's see. 2 times 6 is 12. Minus 6, that's 6. Absolute value, 6. That's not less than 4. Perfect. Yep, I didn't think it would work because it's not shaded. Let's try 3. 2 times 3 is 6. Minus 6, that's 0. Absolute value, still 0. 0 is less than 4. That's true. Okay, so notice I separated into my two inequalities. For the negative, the sign had to flip. Okay, then I solved each carefully. I graphed them both on the same graph. And then I kind of used my graph and plugged in numbers just to check. That's it. You're going to use this space below for your last 4 practice problems, 15 through 18.